Hey, good morning. Let's go over today's trade plan. So in the overnight session, our directional bias was bearish, and ES ended up attracting responsive sellers in the 16 to 17 area, and that resulted in eventually a pullback all the way down towards the previous VPOC of 1992. And at this point, heading into the open, the market is very balanced, and the short-term directional bias is neutral. The larger time frame structure continues to be bearish, but this morning we're really going to find out whether the buying we saw yesterday afternoon and even in the overnight session really has staying power, and whether the buyers are going to show up again or not. That's the main question we're going to be answering off the open. Again, that larger time frame structure continues to be bearish, but short term the market is relatively neutral, and it can really go in either direction. We are still going to favor the sell side as long as ES is holding below the 475 to 675 pre-market resistance and the 1175 to 1375 initial resistance, but we just have to be open to the idea that buyers can show up this morning, and the buying that we saw yesterday afternoon can resume. So that requires a more flexible and neutral short-term bias and mindset. On the downside, a pullback to 96 to 98 would signal weakness, and then if we break 92 to 94, that would be a confirmation that the sellers are stepping in a more aggressive way, and from there we can go back down towards the 81.5 to 84, test yesterday's low, and potentially even go down into the 72 quarter to 75 support area, which marks larger time frame support. That's an area where responsive buyers can be active, and in the event of a break below that zone, the next larger time frame support is going to be at 63 quarter, 65 quarter, and 59.75. And we would have to see some pretty decent broad market weakness for the market to even head all the way back down there. If the market internals are relatively neutral or not really showing excessive weakness, then we could continue balancing, and that means that buyers can be active near yesterday's low, and 72 quarters 75 can cap the downside. On the upside, a breakout above 1175 to 1375 would signal short-term strength and bring the overnight high at 17 into play, and the 19 to 20, 2175 to 2275, and the 25 half to 27 resistance zones would be active at that point. Now, as the market pushes higher, responsive sellers can still be active at the resistance zones above. Similar to the downside scenario, we would have to see excessive strength in order for the market to really sustain those higher prices. So even if the market gets up to the 19 to 20 or even as high as 25 half to 27, it doesn't mean that it has to continue going higher. We can still end up with a balanced session, and that larger time frame bearish market structure can come into play at those upper resistance areas, especially near 25 half to 27 and 30 quarter to 32.75. Those are larger time frame resistance areas, and 30 quarter to 32.75 can cap the upside even in the event that buyers show up. So heading into the open, the bias is relatively neutral, giving a little bit more edge to the sell side because of that larger time frame bearish bias. The bigger picture bias continues to be bearish, and that's why we have to be cautious on initiating any longs at aggressive prices, and how the market reacts to pre-market resistance and initial resistance will help figure out whether the sell side can maintain at least control on the smaller time frames, or whether this is turning into more of a short-term strong market, but bigger picture is still very balanced and very two-sided. So today we are going to be open to trading in both directions, still going to favor more the short side, but as we go down, in the event that we do go all the way down to 81.5, 84, and especially 72 quarters, 75, those are areas where we can expect value seekers or responsive buyers to be active, and the 72 quarter to 76 quarter area is a potential long setup on first test. Same for 63 quarter, 65 quarter. But today, really, the question is whether that larger time frame structure is going to resume on the downside and continue going lower, or whether the buying that we saw yesterday afternoon and in the overnight session is going to resume. And that's why we have to be flexible and neutral with our short-term directional bias. So those are the main thoughts heading into the open. Let's see if the sellers can hold ES at pre-market resistance or initial resistance. That'll help set the tone for the day, and we'll take it from there.